Hey guys, it's Callahan here. I'm back. Callahan here. We are actually in episode 4. Hey guys. No, didn't start. Hey guys. Testing, 1, 2, 3. We're actually in episode 4. I got it done. It took a lot of work. There's so much footage. Thank you for waiting. I know it's been a really long time. I am excited for this episode. It's going to be a lot of fun. You get to see some more building. Not gonna lie, I had some problems with the skirt. I made some mistakes that I wish I hadn't. Like I said, you'll see some building, but more importantly, you're gonna see the conclusion of all this nutty time traveling that's been going on. A lot of overlapping, a lot of weird stuff been happening. You've been seeing it out of order. This time, you get to see it in order, and I'm going to explain it to you. Let's see. I have a lot of stuff to do. I know. I can finish the intro from episode 2. I never got around to doing that. Yeah, I think I'll do that. Let's see. Episode 2 was a long time ago. Hi. Sorry about me leaving there. You see, tomorrow I'm gonna realize that I never... Alright, let's see. That's all cleared up. Let's see. Second thing on my list. An apology. I am really sorry for how long that this has taken to produce and get up on YouTube. I've just been busy and I haven't made it as high of a priority as I could have. At the same time, I was, finishing up a first year of college, working full time, just a lot of personal stuff. So I've been really busy. But now we're in it. I'm making the episodes. We're good again. I'm up until school starts again. Then things are gonna get nuts. But yeah, let's see. Third thing, my YouTube channel has been really growing because of these videos. So I have to say a massive thank you to you guys who keep watching them. It's really exciting for me to see that and be like, hey, people are actually into this. So I will really try not to disappoint. Let's see, so to get back into the swing of things, I think we'll just get right into the building footage. Excuse me, what are you doing?
Sorry,
Do you have any idea how many takes it's gotten me to get past all of my mistakes and get to this point?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go this far.
I was almost done with the intro.
Okay.
Dude, come on.
I'm sorry, I see that you're upset. I'm just getting the hang of this thing, okay? Sorry.
This keeps happening, these overlapping time streams. It's a problem, so you know what, I'm going to, if you don't mind, I'll just take a few seconds and I'm gonna see what I can do to fix this. Yeah, if you'll excuse me. Let's see. It should be all fixed up. I'll have to wait and see, but it really should be. That should have solved the problem. I am sorry to keep you waiting so long. Actually, I was only gone about 20 seconds, of course. That's because it's time traveling. That's very convenient sometimes, but let's get to the building. Why not? I did a lot, like I said, I did a lot of work on the skirt. A lot of awesome stuff, so I hope you enjoy it. I'll catch back to you. So the last place that we left off for the building was I had cut out all the panels and I had taped them together to kind of get the rough shape of the skirt together. And I just discovered that I would be able to fit it through a door. So I was really happy about that. Where we'll go from here is I tried various methods of fitting the panels together and kind of adding a top frame section and a bottom frame section and then finishing it off to make it a strong structure. So the first thing I did was sketched out and cut out the bottom frame according to the Dalek plans, and I did this out of a thick piece of plywood. So because I don't have a jigsaw, I had to cut this piece out like I've cut every other piece out, make my measurements based off of the Dalek plans, mark those down on the plywood, and then cut it out with a handsaw. At this point, I wasn't very concerned with cutting this piece of wood safely, so as you'll see here, I was cutting it without a glove with a bouncing bow saw very close to my hand. I did cut my thumb. That was a very poor choice of me. When you're seeing this cutting footage, just don't cut any kind of wood the way that I was cutting this wood here. It was unsafe of me, and I really shouldn't have been doing it like this. Anyway, once I was done with cutting the main shape out of the large section of plywood, I put it on my 2 sawhorses and finished trimming the edges. Now, after this, I had to go through the long, tedious process of drilling holes along the inside edges, and then joining those holes and cutting out the inner piece with a handsaw. Now, I had to do this because I don't have a jigsaw. It's a real pain, but it does work, so I'm okay with putting up with it because it works and I can do it with all the tools that I already have. So once I finished up all the cutting, I had to figure out how to attach the skirt panels to this bottom frame. The next thing that I did was I measured and cut out flexible hinges made out of thick double corrugated cardboard. I wanted to attach the skirt panels to this bottom frame, but still have some flexibility because there are several rather odd twists in these panels. They don't all actually lie flat. Some are twisted at the top, so I wanted to account for that. The next thing I had to figure out was how to attach the bottom frame, the hinges, and the panels all together. My first plan of attack was to use a staple gun. I thought that this would be rather foolproof as it would go through the cardboard quite easily and have a really strong grip into the hardboard and the plywood. Now, because I had no idea what the future would hold, I shot a lot of B-roll of me getting the staple gun ready and my preparation and the different millimeter sizes of staples that I was going to use. I tested it on the different materials, so I'll show a little bit of that now. However, as you will soon see, the staple gun method did not work at all. These staples just would not go into the hardboard and plywood strongly enough, and it kept falling apart on me, so I had to find a different method of connecting this. At this point, I went to a classic fallback for me, which is hot glue. Now, at this point, I was just hopeful that it was going to work and hold together long enough for me to get to the next construction process, but I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself there. I began to hot glue the pieces together, and the hot glue adhered well to the cardboard, but at the same time, the plywood and the hardboard, especially the hardboard, have rather smooth surfaces, and the hot glue really needs texture and a soft material to get the best adhesion. Unfortunately, my use of the hot glue did not work at all, and as soon as I would pick up the frame once most of the pieces were together or put any kind of pressure on it, the hot glue would completely break off of the hardboard. It would stay on the cardboard, but it would break off of the hardboard and off of the plywood, basically making it as useless as the staples. So at this point in the process, I have officially restarted attaching the panels to the frame 2 complete times. Now, one thing that I haven't mentioned yet, but you've probably seen, is that I did cut out the top frame for the skirt. I wanted to do this just so I could get a sense of how much structure the skirt had by itself, with all the pieces starting to be connected to each other. However, that worked against me in the end because it just added more work to the staples not working and then the hot glue not working. Anyway, I guess 3rd time's a charm for this project. The next adhesive that I used was classic wood glue, and that adhered very well to the cardboard, the hardboard, and the plywood, which I was very happy about. I was really ready to see some solid progress, and this process gave it to me. It was much more time consuming than the staples or hot glue because wood glue takes a lot longer to dry, but in the end I was really happy with how strong everything turned out. As you can guess, it took a lot of work to peel off the hot glue and kind of break everything apart to reapply wood glue, because I didn't want any sections to be weaker just because the hot glue or the staples had held already. I didn't want there to be any weak links in this skirt, as it's going to be the strongest part of my build and support the weight of everything above it. Unfortunately, I had glued most of the skirt panels together when I realized that my top frame piece was not level at all, due to errors in measuring and just errors while cutting. Because I cut all the panels out by hand, they weren't all the same height. I had just matched the top frame with the height of most of the boards. I hadn't even checked a leveler, which was a big mistake by me. I will be paying much closer attention to that in the future. At this point, this was my third time having to rip off the top panels, so I was really getting tired of restarting. But just like using wood glue, the leveling process was very important and it was worth it in the end. I took my time leveling the lid, and then I checked the level every single time I glued on another panel. At this point, everything was together quite solidly. I just had to identify the few remaining hot glue panels and remove those and re-glue them with wood glue, and then I was on to the final step of the structure of the skirt, fiberglassing. Now, before this project, I had never fiberglassed something in my entire life. My only experience with it was when my brother had used it on some of his projects. That was it. So I had to learn how to mix the resin and the catalyst and buy the fiberglass cloth and everything. This isn't going to be a tutorial on how to fiberglass, but if you want to learn how to do it, there are many places where you can get good information on how to fiberglass something. Anyway, my first attempt at fiberglassing the inside of the seams just to add structural strength, it was a total epic fail. I started too late in the day, so I ran out of daylight, and I had no idea how to handle everything without getting my gloves really sticky, the paintbrush really sticky, everything that I was using got sticky, and I couldn't pick up anything without it sticking to my gloves. So, when I tried a second attempt at fiberglassing, I did it on the weekend, in the afternoon, in broad daylight, and I tried to be much more prepared. I had all of my fiberglass cloth cut into strips already, and I had the resin and the catalyst and all of my mixing tools laid out far separate from each other, so I could do everything that I needed to do without any object sticking to my gloves. Now, it was a hot day, so the resin hardened a lot sooner than I wanted it to, but I still got quite a few seams done, a little bit under half, and I was really pleased with the results. The fiberglass cloth and resin combination put into the seams adds a boatload of structural integrity to the skirt, and at that point it really felt like one piece, not just various panels glued together at the top and bottom. So I just tried to repeat that process when I did my third fiberglass attempt, and at that point I was able to successfully finish all of the skirt seams. I think there are 11 in total. After the resin had cured, the skirt felt like one piece, and I could pick it up with one hand and it wouldn't wobble at all. In addition to doing the skirt seam, I also fiberglassed the underside of the lid, just so it would be strong enough to hold the other parts of the Dalek, and so I could pick it up without worrying about it breaking. At this point, the summer was practically over, and I got really busy with preparing for school, so there isn't much more progress after this. I brought the skirt down into my basement, and I began to use wood filler to fill in the seams and try to sand them down so that everything looked like one piece. However, I really only got one or two done, and then school started. I'm very happy with the progress I made, and I'll definitely be able to continue filling and sanding over Christmas break, as well as work on other parts of the Dalek. Alright, let's get back to the story. Okay, time to explain all this time traveling stuff. To make things a little bit easier, I've created this graph, this visual, that's a timeline of everything that's happened, and I'll show that right now. Now, without any explanation, I'm sure it looks quite weird, but we will get to that, I will explain it, and it'll hopefully make a lot more sense than it does right now. Okay, I'm just going to go through the graph chronologically and explain a simplified version of what's happened. As you can see, the graph is split up into 3 sections, episode 2, episode 3, and this episode, episode 4. That's the context that all of this stuff happened in, so I've split it up to make it easy to see where one episode ends and the other starts, and to give you a good example of which version of me we're talking about at any given time. So remember, the version of me from episode 2 has a jeans and a green hoodie. The version of me from episode 3 is wearing a blue and red shirt, and the version from episode 4 is wearing the turquoise hoodie. So whenever you're watching the footage, keep that in mind. Alright, let's get to it. We start in episode 2, and time progresses normally. As far as we're concerned right now, nothing weird has happened. Then, the green hoodie version of me has a conversation with the blue and red shirt version of me in the kitchen. You may remember that from episode 2. So the one thing that we're going to make note of in the section for episode 2 is that the green hoodie version of me met a future version of me wearing the red and blue shirt, and they talked in the kitchen. Now, the blue and red version of me told me to look up and build a vortex manipulator, so that's why all the time travel starts in episode 3, after I built the vortex manipulator. Alright, so this is where we get our first jump, which I made to look like a little arc so that you can tell where I'm coming from and where I'm going to in the timeline. So, naturally, my first jump after making the vortex manipulator is to go back in time to tell myself to make the vortex manipulator. So that was paradox number 1. From there, as you remember from earlier this episode, that version of me, wearing the blue and red shirt, jumped forward in time, way too far, all the way to the intro of this episode. You saw my reaction, I was frustrated, so the blue and red version of me jumped back to episode 3 very quickly. He, or I, was then in the proper episode chronologically. After that, some time passed, and I, wearing the blue and red shirt, found the note on the back of my red chair. It said, go upstairs, go to the bathroom, check out the document that's there. Now that doesn't make sense right now, but as we move farther along in the explanation, that will, so we're going to skip that for now. The note on the mirror said to deliver the document forward in time to episode 4. The blue and red version of me did that, and then returned back to episode 3. You might remember that I was confused after making this jump. I didn't really understand what the document was, why I was delivering it, and why it already had my signature on it, which was rather odd. Anyway, chronologically, now we're in episode 4. Now, as you already saw, the blue and red version of me from episode 3 interrupted the intro for this video, so I decided to create a solution for this whole paradox situation and fix it. Now what I did was I created this document called the Pledge of Abstinence from Intersecting Time Travel. And basically what that is it's a legal document that outlines terms and conditions and rules that if I read and signed it would basically mean that I would agree to never time travel in my own time stream, past or in the future, ever again. Now it's very complicated. It has 3 spots for signatures and dates. The plan was that I from episode 2, me from episode 3, and then me from episode 4 would all sign it, making the agreement stick for all versions of us so that we would all know about it. Alright, I'd like to quickly mention, the time travel arcs that you're seeing right now on your screen, please ignore those, we will get to those later. Thanks. Alright, so my first step for implementing this solution was to jump all the way back to episode 2. Now, you may be wondering, why in episode 2 you never saw me? Well, that's because this has been in the works for a long time and I didn't want to spoil anything. Anyway, What I did was I took the document on my laptop all the way back to episode 2, and I emailed it to myself while I, the green hoodie version of me, was looking up Vortex manipulator information. Then, that version of me read the email, read the document, printed it out, and then signed the first row. After that had all happened, I, the turquoise version, came and got it, and I delivered it to the bathroom in episode 3. I also left the note on the mirror with instructions and the note on the red chair in the basement. After the blue and red shirt version of me from episode 3 read the note, read the document, and signed on the second line, he followed the instructions and delivered it here in episode 4. So I have the document now, I've signed it and put a date on it. Now I have a legally binding document that has signatures and binds all 3 versions of me in this whole paradox situation from ever time traveling in our own time streams ever again. So you may have noticed that one of the jumps from episode 4 all the way back to episode 2, I didn't mention at all. Now I did that to keep the whole story a bit more simple. That was the jump I made to knock off something from my to-do list. It was to fix and finish, actually record, the end of the intro for episode 2. Remember back then, the version of me from episode 2 heard the blue and red version of me from episode 3 up in the kitchen, and he left to go check it out. Then they had that conversation. So, the intro to the video was never finished. Fixing that was on my to-do list for episode 4, so I decided to just, before I got to anything else, jump back and finish recording the intro for him so that he would have the footage while editing. Then I jumped back, and the story progressed normally. Alright, well, thanks for listening to this explanation. I hope it all made sense. If something didn't make sense, write me a message in the comments and I'll try to get back to you to explain it as best I can. Let's get back to the rest of the episode. Well guys, we have come to the end of the episode. Thank you for sitting through that extremely long explanation. I hope you found it interesting. I tried to make this video through and through as interesting as I could. I'm sorry for how long it was. Future Dalek videos will certainly be shorter, for my sake and for your sake. That's one of the reasons why this was so delayed, is the editing for this was a beast to deal with. But I hope you enjoyed it. Now that this video is done, I will be able to move full steam ahead on episode 5, which that is going to be completely story. There won't be any building with that. Unfortunately, I didn't get to any building over Christmas break, which leads me into, obviously Christmas break is done, I'm back at school, so obviously I can't do any building right now. All of the building will continue during the summer, hence episode 5 being only story. I'm really excited for that episode. I hope you enjoy it. Like I said, I'm back at school. I moved all my stuff back here. I brought the Vortex manipulator with me, just in case. Even though I made that agreement, who knows what could happen. Because of all that story stuff that was happening, this guy is now packed with a ton of extra potential time energy, but that shouldn't have any bad side effects. That story arc is now done, and we'll be moving on to something different. Now I'd like to say I'm really sorry for how long this has taken to create and upload. I've been busy with a bunch of different stuff. This episode was just so complex from a creative point of view. I also restarted many sections of the editing twice. So just like the actual building, restarting that many times really put me back in terms of scheduling. So I will try to avoid that in the future. We will see. Alright, so the last thing I'd like to say before we head out to the outro is thank you so much, guys, for all the support and actually watching the videos. My channel has grown a lot because of these videos. I've noticed that quite a bit over the last year, and I'm really grateful. So I appreciate you guys' support and comments and enthusiasm for seeing this episode. I really hope you enjoy episode 5. I know I am going to enjoy making it quite a bit. So, with that said, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. See ya.